SDG 3, Good Health and Well-Being. So what is SDG 3? According to the UN, it is to ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. And again, there are 13 indicators and 28 indicators. I'm going to go over a couple of them. The well-being, so some more information. Well-being is the state of being comfortable, healthy, or happy, and life expectancy is the most commonly used measure to describe a population's health. The average life expectancy in the US is 79 years, which is higher than the worldwide average of 72 years. So the first target I'm going to talk about is 3.4, which is reduce mortality from non-communicable diseases and promote mental health. The indicator is mortality rate attributed to cardiovascular disease, to cancer, diabetes, or chronic respiratory diseases. And the goal is by 2030 to reduce by 1/3 premature mortality from non-communicable diseases through prevention and treatment in all countries. And in this graph, you can see that the US is in the 10 to 15% range at 13.6%, while Japan is in the 5 to 10% range at 8.3%. In the target 3.6, which is reduce road injuries and deaths, its indicator is death rate due to road traffic injuries. I'm going to show both of the graphs, but since the indicator is the rate of road deaths, while the target is set for the absolute number of road deaths, the first graph is showing the road traffic death rate, while the second one is showing the number of deaths, road traffic deaths. So the target is by 2020, which is unusual. Usually the target is for 2030. But in this specific one, they did 2020, and it is to have the number of global deaths and injuries from road traffic accidents. And in this one, it is deaths per 100,000 people. And in this, you can see the US is in the 10 to 20 range at 12.7 deaths per 100,000 people, while Japan is in 0 to 10 range at 3.6 deaths per 100,000 people. And in the second chart, which is showing the number of road traffic deaths in 2021, the US is in the 30,000 to 100,000 range at 41,372 deaths, while Japan is again in the 3,000 to 10,000 range at 4,957. In this last target I'm going to talk about, which is to reduce illnesses and deaths from hazardous chemicals and pollution, its indicator, specifically I'm talking about 3.9.2, the second indicator, which is the mortality rate attributed to unsafe water, unsafe sanitation, and lack of hygiene. And its indicator is being defined as number of deaths per 100,000 people, which again is being attributed to unsafe water, unsafe sanitation, and lack of hygiene. But it's defined as exposure to unsafe water, sanitation, and hygiene for all, which stands for WASH, services. And it includes the deaths from diarrhea, intestinal nematode infections, malnutrition, and acute respiratory infections. And the target or goal is by 2030 is to substantially reduce the number of deaths and illnesses from hazardous chemicals and air, water, and soil pollution and contamination. And in this graph, which is again measuring the deaths per 100,000 people of a given population in 2019, you could see that the US is in the 2 to 5 range at 2.26 deaths per 100,000 people, while Japan is in that 5 to 10 range at 8.43 deaths per 100,000 people. And then some solutions that I did specifically by the targets I talked about, just like the last SDG 3, SDG, IoT is very big in being a solution for helping with these goals, since the devices that it can be used with and the uses for these devices are very versatile and can be put in many different things. For target 3.6, which is again the road deaths and injuries, IoT can be used for public safety to alert people, pedestrians, or anybody on the road of any potential road hazards, specifically drivers, of any potential road hazards on the road ahead of them so that they know to be cautious. And for the improved emergency services, it can help relay real time data so responders can provide faster and more accurate assistance. And then again, the traffic assistance has to do with alerting um, drivers of any traffic congestions, changes, emergencies, accidents on the roads ahead of them. And for Target 3.9, which is the pollution one, it can be used a lot in IoT can be used in the smart cities, specifically for the pollution monitoring. So the sensors can monitor if there's any chemical imbalance in the water, air. Again, for this pollution monitoring for the traffic, there's some apps that can help drivers find parking quicker, so they're not idly trying to find parking. And then for Target 3.4, which is the mortality from non-communicable diseases. IoT can be used in the healthcare industry for monitoring patients, not necessarily patients that doctors can see to see, but ones at home, so remote monitoring. And then there's again contact tracing apps to allow people who have this app to know if when two people are in the same vicinity in case someone has something. And then the smartwatches again can help with alerting emergency assistance for if you need it, some safety measures, alerting if you have any potential like heart rhythm of abnormalities, like your heart's not beating at the right timing, or if you're having any abnormalities with like your blood pressure and stuff, it can alert you and possibly give you a heads up or like like a pre notion that there may be something um going on, so you can catch any possible not necessarily any possible diagnosis is early. So IoT has many different uses. And then the citations.